Hello, everyone. Welcome to a podcast. It's called Jesse's Room, and it has two co-hosts. One of which is me, and I am Ben.
And I am the other co-host. My name is Rora.
And yeah, we're just gonna do a quick intro thing before we start the discussion of today's films, feature films. Yes.
Yeah, you want me to go now?
Yeah.
Okay. So uh so Jesse's Room is a podcast that we started to talk about movies, which is not the most original idea, but it was our idea. So we're going with it anyway. Um and yeah, today's a pilot episode just to get a feel for how things are going to work out. Should I say what movies we're doing today, or is that a surprise? Well, actually, no, they'll see it in the thumbnail.
It's
I'm
in the
stupid.
yeah.
Okay. Today's a pilot episode, and just to get a feel for how things are gonna go. And today we are reviewing Mamma Mia and Fight Club.
Yes, two incredibly identical films.
Exactly, yes.
Uh, I mean, just to clarify before we go, too far into it, haven't really planned this one out, hopefully as much as future episodes, but uh, that's why this is just the pilot. This is not part of the canon
Yeah.
lore of Jesse's Room. This is episode 0. So in the future, we're gonna have cooler stuff, but
Yeah, yeah. And not sound like, you know, people who don't know what they're doing.
well, I doubt
But
that's
yeah.
gonna really change.
Okay, well, we have to keep up images here, Ben. Give me a break.
So, um, uh,
All right, so you
let me.
wanna say why we picked these two movies, or?
Sure, I'll go ahead with that.
All right.
We originally planned to watch or to discuss Mamma Mia and Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Uh, just sort of randomly picked the two, mainly because I had never seen Mamma Mia, and Rora had never seen Scott Pilgrim, and so we watched them together just the other day, and we were like, wouldn't it be funny if we combined the two? But then after we watched Mamma Mia, we also watched Fight Club. And while we were watching that, I was like, wouldn't it be really funny if we combined Mamma Mia with Fight Club? Because they really are, like, jokes aside, they are pretty similar in a way.
No, they're not. The ludicrousy of them, yes, but from a
Well,
thematic standpoint,
we'll get into that in our discussion then, because I
yeah,
beg to
yeah, yeah.
differ.
Oh, really? Okay, then some contest here. But yeah, no. So we're just gonna basically be talking about the movies today, our thoughts on them, how they were put together, all the scripts, production itself, really all aspects of it. It's kind of just like a very just like a conversation. You know what I mean? Nothing too fancy. Just sort of like just viewing them as films and how like we see them basically.
It's like a concerto.
Yes,
But
exactly.
yeah, I do want to say Rora is definitely more prepared than I am for this one.
No, I think I wouldn't say I'm more prepared. I just say that I wrote more, if that makes sense.
Well, considering I didn't write anything, it's not
Okay.
the standard isn't very high.
All right.
But
Well, it's okay. We got it. We got it. It's
yeah.
good.
But I just want to say,
Yeah.
like, normally we would be a bit more prepared, or especially me. But yeah, and for future episodes, I think just while we're in this sort of intro, I think we would sort of like continue with the like contrasting pairings and stuff because I feel like that's kind of funny, but also like
Yeah.
good.
It's good discussion topics.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a good like variety, because like
Yeah.
if I had it my way, we would be discussing black and white Swedish films every week,
Which we
and
could do a Swedish special.
a Swedish week, no.
Yeah.
Um, but but yeah, I feel like this way we get the best of all aspects of cinema, from the
Hmm.
good films to the
The
great
not so good
films,
films.
the great
Oh,
films
the
like
great
Mamma
films.
Mia.
Okay. Yes, of course. The peak of cinema.
speaking of Mamma Mia, Rora, why don't you introduce the film?
All right, so the plot of Mamma Mia basically is that there's this girl who's the daughter of Donna, played by Meryl Streep, and she has three potential fathers, and all of which whom she invites to her wedding, which is the central um, narrative of the story. She's trying to get these men to Greece, which is where the movie is located, to find out which is her father. Her mother does not know of any of this, and so she's surprised by the three men coming to the wedding. And the whole movie basically is just the girl, whose name is Sophie, trying to keep the three men away from her mother, Donna, while trying to like balance between all different aspects of it. So it's mainly just that sort of like relationship between the father, the potential fathers, Sophie and Donna, and it's like a back and forth the whole movie.
Yeah. Well, I would also like specify, if you're like me, if you have not seen this movie, that like it's not a very plot driven movie.
No, it's really not. Yeah.
Yeah, it's about, well, you got to mention the music. It's a
Oh yeah. Well, I
musical.
thought we'd get into that later. That's the
Well,
most
yeah.
important
Well,
part.
we're getting into it now.
All right, fair enough. Yes, it is
That's
in fact a
yes.
musical.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, yeah, it is a musical. Features ABBA songs, the 70s Swedish pop band, which is
Swedish.
Swedish, yes. Right up your alley. But no, yeah, but it is a very like it's one of those movies you put on like a Friday night and your friends are sleeping over. It's just one of those fun movies. So
Well,
yeah.
you should also specify like this placement in your like top 10 or whatever,
Okay,
because
fine. I was getting there. No, yeah, but this movie is number 4 out of top 10, which is a bit weird considering all the other ones in relation to it because they're more like serious. But this movie is just it has such a good like rewatch factor. Like you could just watch this movie over and over again and the experience is still the same. And it's just a really I love this movie just because it's so entertaining and so like enthralling and you just want to keep watching it because you're like even I've seen this before, the songs are catchy, the characters are like relatable, and they're all like phenomenal actors and actresses. Like, I mean, Meryl Streep alone, you know what I mean? Great. And we'll get more into the cast and stuff later and like
yeah.
the characters, but for a very like from the beginning, it's just a really overall like it's like a homely movie. It's something that you just watch just to have good vibes, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I should specify this is not in my top 10. I know. But no, I didn't like dislike it. I know I probably am coming across like that, but no, I enjoyed it. Like you said, it's just one of those like not no stake, but just like
Low
it's the
stake.
low stake, I guess you'd say, but just like you said, rewatchability factor, just having
Hmm.
like no like conflict. It's just sort of like a uh hangout movie. I feel like someone you
Yeah.
oh, that's Tarantino describing Jackie Brown. It's just like a movie you just put on, or it's like there isn't really like, I mean there's a plot obviously, but it's nothing that's like
Yeah.
intensely like driving you
Yeah.
forward, like keeping you engaged. It's just like, hey, you just kind of hang out with these characters, see what they're up to on this Greek island for a day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And just also the fact that like all of the dialogue is like very like I mean some I don't know if it was intentional or not. I'm assuming probably not, but there's a lot of times when they'll the actors and actresses will like slip up on their lines and sort of like blah 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 their way out of it and it's just like it just adds to the sort of like you watch this with your friends like vibe, you know what I mean? That's why I love this movie because it's just such a nice movie. But yeah.
Yeah, it's interest for me. It's more interesting than like entertaining. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, we'll get into like the production and stuff, but like
Mhm. Yeah.
it's fascinating, you know,
It truly
like
is, yes, the whole process behind everything.
and just like the film itself is so
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
bizarre in like
Yeah.
every moment, you know, like and I mean that in
Mhm.
the best way. Well, not the best way
Yeah.
possible, but like the cinematography is just like so like non-trad like it's so not non-traditional, but just like interesting, you know? Like it's
Hmm.
not what you expect for a movie called like Mamma Mia, you know? Like
Yeah.
like it's way more like visually interesting than you would expect. Like you kind of just expect like shot, reverse shot, like super basic standard like cinematography, but with this the camera is just like always like moving somehow. It's like constantly
Yeah.
like tilting and zooming and moving around. Like it's very straight. It's like a music video, which makes
It
sense
kind of is,
considering,
yeah.
yeah, it's basically
The
a,
abundance of songs.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I the cinematography is definitely very unique, I guess, to this particular brand. Because like this is technically a romance. It's like it's a rom-com. It technically is, but like it, you're right. It has so many like interesting shots that you don't think like there's like I think there's a crash zoom right when they first meet the three guys, if I'm remembering correctly. And it's like why where did that come from? You know what I mean? But it's just like it visually keeps you interested. So I think you're right with that. It is definitely quite the creative use of a camera.
Yeah, it's just like sort of the, you can tell that it just like doesn't make any sense really. It's just
Yeah.
like it doesn't take itself seriously at all, you know? And that's sort of
Yeah.
like you can tell the production sort of had that attitude as well, where it's just like it's so just like, I guess free flowing and stuff. Like it really just comes off. That's where I think the like lighthearted aspect really like kicks in. It's just that
Yeah.
like from every aspect of it just like is not like taken seriously, I think.
Yeah. No, I think it's taken seriously to an extent, like probably like the budget and everything, but I think the actual film itself is not like serious at all, and it's not intended to be taken as such. Like you know what I mean? Like they put effort into it, that much is obvious, but like it wasn't intended to be like this like heartfelt drama. It was intended to be like this like sort of like goofy, like where did that come from? Why are they like dancing in flippers and like swimming trunks sort of thing? You know what I mean? Like I think you're right in that aspect. They definitely do not take it seriously, but in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the budget, so I guess we'll sort of get into that, like,
Yeah.
and how I kind of said while we were watching it that this is definitely just like a money laundering scheme. Because it seems like a movie like the Happy Madison stuff. Like it seems like something that like is just an excuse to get a bunch of like actors to like go on a vacation and drink a bunch of alcohol, and the camera
Yeah.
is there just as like a cover up, like an
Yeah.
excuse. And so that's where I feel like just like the stupidly like over the top camera movements for this like um just non-story, and it just feels like they just went so like they just basically didn't care, and I think that came across in like the best way possible, and their tax evasion scheme somehow backfired into the highest grossing film ever directed by a woman until Wonder Woman. But
Actually, to add on to that, this was budget what 52 million, I think it was.
it was below 60, yeah.
Yeah, and so I was looking up like statistics yesterday about this, and this is on IMDb's website. It says that in December of 2008, this is a direct quote by the way, this movie became the highest grossing movie of all time in the UK, like beating both Titanic and Avatar, which I thought was insane. I don't know if that's true, but I mean it's directly from IMDb, so
It's
I was
probably
like, that's
true.
insane. Yeah, I mean, most of the cast is European,
Yeah.
so it makes sense. But still, I'm like, that's insane that it beat out like Titanic. You know, like that's crazy.
Yeah, that's what I was saying with like the, it's just that's the main stuff that interests me because it's based off a novel slash Broadway play, but it was a
Yeah,
play. It was not a musical,
it wasn't a
and
musical, right? Yeah,
they just added in all of these like 70s Swedish pop songs, and it's just like they like basically built a story, or they just like grabbed a story and made it sort of fit in with the like pre-existing songs basically.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's where I feel like a lot of the sort of lack of like traditional like plot or narrative structure is just because
Mhm.
they kind of just like slapped a story on top of a bunch of like they basically are just stringing together the songs with like pieces of plot, you know, like it
Yeah.
doesn't, it barely feels like a movie. That's what I was saying. I was comparing it to Cats when we watched it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a better made film than Cats, though. Like this is like, it's the Cats of it's like British Cats. Yes,
Okay.
we can end the episode now. Yeah, I'm kind of shocked as well, like the amount of like genuine love for this movie. I get
Yeah.
like people enjoy it. It's like you said, lighthearted, everything, but it's
Hmm.
like the level of like praise and sort of like, well, I mean, just the box office stuff, like it, like just the
Yeah.
fact that it like instantly got that much of like a status is
Hmm.
interesting.
Well, I mean, I think it's probably because of the cast. Like at first, I mean, literally, like it's such like I mean, like Meryl Streep, Pierce Brosnan, Colin Firth, Amanda Seyfried, Stellan Skarsgård, Dominic Cooper. They're all Julie Walters. I forget her name's like Christine. I forget her last name, but the other of Donna's friends, like they're all well-known actors, and like just that's like the equivalent today of putting like RDJ, Kevin Hart, like all these like well-known celebrities into like this like goofy comedy. Like that's the effect it would have. You know what I mean? Like they were all well-known actors.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely like a factor of it, but just the fact that it's like
Yeah.
number one in a bunch of stuff. I mean, there's tons of movies that has way that have like way more well-known actors in
Well,
it
yeah,
than
100%.
that,
Yeah.
and it made probably, and they've completely flopped, you know. So I feel like there is something about this. I assume it's the soundtrack and the marketability of it. Just like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's probably majorly the soundtrack. Because again, like the first time I watched this movie, like that was like the main thing I kept like the songs. I just loved all the songs. But I think just like the whole movie, it's like I can't visit for what it is, I can't fault it for anything. You know what I mean? Like obviously there's some plot holes and stuff, but it's like that type of movie that it's okay. You know what I mean? Because it's not like important. So I think it's mainly the music that like and the actors who like attracted the original audience, but then after it was beginning to get like popularized, it everybody just stuck on to that concept, you know what I mean? And just kind of like loved it. And I think that's what it was that made it so big, even though it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah.
think it's just an anomaly, really. I
Yeah.
mean, I guess we can talk a bit more about the plot. Well, you were saying like plot holes and stuff. It's like the type of thing that it barely has a plot to begin with, other than like,
Yeah.
no, it's nothing that can't be described like you basically did in a sentence, you know? Like you
Mhm.
could describe the plot of the movie like beat for beat in like under 10 minutes, even though it's like a,
Yeah.
what, hour 50 minutes, something like
I think it
that.
was hour 50, yeah, just under 2 hours.
Yeah, 150 minutes. So I feel like it's just strange. It's bizarre. And that's why I liked it. I mean, well, and we should clarify. I mean, I just watched this, you know, like what, 4 days ago. You've been watching this.
I've been watching it for at least over a year. Yeah, I
Yeah,
really genuinely
so
love this movie.
yeah. I mean, I get that, like having something that like, even though it's not like objectively a great film,
Yeah.
I can still like respect the lightheartedness of it. Like I get it.
Yeah. Honestly, it's just like such a good time though. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, some of the moments in the movie, it's just like you're like, when would that ever like? For example, the bachelor party scene. Remember when they like just come in swinging on ropes, like, and you're like, where did that even come from? You know, it's like just the ludicrousy of some of the shots. It's just like it makes you laugh. You know what I mean? It's just like it's so like you wouldn't see this in any other type of movie, and I don't think honestly you have seen it since. Like, I can't think of a movie that's like has both like slightly like more like serious things like oh this girl's trying to find her father and find out who she is or whatever, but also at the same time can feature like mobs of people like dancing on a pier, you know what I mean? Like it's just like they're so like it's so varied in the tone sometimes, not drastically because it's not a serious movie, but like they just have such a well-rounded like atmosphere, in my opinion, that is. And that's also why I genuinely enjoy it and don't really consider it like a cheesy movie, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's if I had to label it as something, it's like an absurdist musical. And I feel
Yeah.
it's on the same level as like I mentioned like Happy Madison stuff. Like I'm thinking of The Wrong Missy from last year. um don't watch that if you haven't seen it, unfortunately. But where it's just like they don't care at all and they're just clearly making a movie for the sake of like making a move or making like money.
Hmm.
It's like on that level, but there's still like such a it feels genuine at the very least. Like it feels like they're making something stupid and they're having a great time doing it. And it's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah.
they just don't care, but it's the type of thing where it's okay to not care. It's the type of thing that like if they did care about this, I think it would be like a disaster, you know? Like if they took it seriously at all, then the whole thing would just fall apart.
Yeah, because honestly, I can't really imagine like this movie being entertaining without like any of the songs. And I feel like if they did take it seriously, there would have been like significantly less songs. You know what I mean? And it just wouldn't have had the same effect.
Well, if there were no songs in this, it would be like 10 minutes long.
Well, not as I guess, but you could like substitute the songs with like actual dialogue. You know what I
Well,
mean? Like I'm
sure.
saying, if they reverted back to like the original play, I can't see it being as big of a success as it was. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
absolutely not. No.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, we should mention, since we're talking about the songs, it is all of the actors except for one, I think you said.
Yeah, yeah.
But they did their all like their own singing and stuff, which I was
Mm-hmm.
surprised to hear. I mean, I couldn't tell just from listening, but yeah, I think that's
Yeah, Pierce Brosnan was the only one who didn't do his own vocals, but he when he came back for the second one, he did his vocals in that. But yeah, but everybody else in the first one did their own vocals, and it all sounded like pretty good. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're all pretty decent singers. Especially Meryl Streep. Actually, fun fact, which people who love this movie probably already know, but the one of the ending songs, which was like this very emotional, like powerful one, she did in one take, and they just like used it. Like that was it. Like she recorded it, and that was it. Which is actually really, if you hear the song, it's the I think it's called "The Winner Takes All" or something like that. It's a very she did a very good job with it. So I always thought that was incredibly impressive to do in one take, you know. But yeah.
it's just little stuff like that just makes
Mhm.
this more interesting to me, like as a phenomenon rather than just a film. Because that's a film, I think it's pretty like it borders on like the filmmaking aspects versus just like the fact that this exists is why I'm enjoying it, you know? Like
Mhm.
just the
Yeah.
fact that like I don't know, like there's just so many bizarre little things. Like just like on the Wikipedia article I showed you yesterday, it was like the reason Meryl Streep wanted to do this was because she watched the Broadway play after 9/11 and it gave her
Yeah.
hope about humanity. And it's just like there's so many just like things that don't make any sense, and it's like you watch
Mhm.
the film knowing that like that was Meryl Streep's motivation to wanting to
Yeah.
do this. It's just like so eh, fascinating. That's I think if I had to summarize it in one word, it's just like fascinating stupidity. I think that's two words, but you know what I mean.
It's close enough. No, but what I was gonna say is another little interesting bit is I don't remember. I think it's like 40-ish minutes in, maybe an hour, but I think it's probably closer to the 40-minute mark. There is this shot of the courtyard, like right after like it gets a crack in it, not right after, like after it gets a crack in it, and there's like this dolphin emblem in stone on the courtyard, like the center, which is there the whole movie. But for one scene, the dolphin like it's like almost as like it starts moving like it not it like pulsates on the ground, so it's like if somebody like took a PNG of a dolphin like stone and just stretched it and shrunk it like for like the 3 seconds it's on camera. So like it's like this weird hidden like special effects shot, and I don't remember why it was included. I just remember reading that, and I noticed it when we watched it the other day. And like it's just like a weird little like why did they do that? But it's like in there. It just adds to like the ludicrousy of the entire thing. But it's just such like a weird like tidbit. You know what I mean?
Wait, so the dolphin like logo thing was digitally added
Yeah.
for only one scene?
Well, no, I think it was like on like the set they shot, but for one scene, it like grew and shrunk like two or three times in the span of like the 3 seconds it was on camera.
Was it like, well, I'm just trying to picture. So they digitally added it for like the whole thing, but they just like forgot to like change like a keyframe or something just for like
No,
so
like
it was
it
stretching or
literally like it literally just like when things like pulse like in cartoons when like the heart is like pumping and it's like small big
yeah.
small big
Well,
small
no,
big.
yeah.
It did that. That's what it was doing.
And wait, so was it intentional or was this just like
I
a
don't know. I just remember seeing it on like Instagram or something. There's a post about it. I'm like, that's not true. And I forgot about it, but when we were watching it yesterday, I saw it and I'm like, oh my God. I was like, why is that there?
well, I feel like that just encapsulates the whole like mystique of it. Like this feels like a
Yeah.
it is unique, you know. I don't think I've ever seen a movie that's quite like it in terms of that like feeling that like it's not a legitimate movie, but it's also kind of good.
That's pretty much, I think that's probably like the best way you can describe that. 'Cause I mean, like, it's just like an odd, like, it's a, like an odd, unique, it's like an experience to watch this movie. You know what I mean? Like, it's
It
not
really
just
is.
like sit down, you watch it. It's like you take it all in and you're like, what? You know?
You don't walk away from Mamma Mia as the same man. I think we should also I don't know how much more you had to say, but we should start talking about kind of the music and sort of that stuff.
Yeah. No, yeah, I was gonna actually bring that up, yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'll just say I thought the music was pretty good. I mean, I don't know
hmm
much about music. I can talk about movies all day, but this is not a music podcast, unfortunately.
No, it is
But
not. Yes.
to my untrained ears, I thought the music was pretty good. Nothing that I would like go and listen to like on my own, maybe, but
Yeah.
they're pretty catchy.
As someone who has watched this movie for a while, I can say without hesitation that I have listened to these songs, uh, cleaning or cooking or whatever. But I also do very much enjoy the soundtrack. Well, you think it's okay, but I thought it was
Well,
fantastic.
I enjoyed it.
It was enjoyable.
Well, I mean, considering it's the majority of the film, you kind of have to.
Yeah, yeah. I remember when the film was going on, I was like counting down the songs, and I was like, "All right, song number 7 is coming up," and you were just like, "We just had one," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know."
Yeah, towards like once all three of the dads have kind of been like introduced and stuff, there's like four songs back to back. It's like
Yeah, it's very music heavy. Like it's probably one of the most. I mean, what there's like we look at this. There's 19 songs, I think.
yeah, you said 19.
Yeah, which is insane because they're like on average 2 to 3 minute songs.
Yeah, and they're in full.
Yeah, and they're full. Yeah, so like it's a lot of music. But yeah, I mean, you just get the song stuck in your head.
Yeah, and I think should also point out like most of them like are detours from the plot. Like they're things that like don't really like the plot doesn't
Yeah.
progress during the songs. Like it was just like, oh, this hotel is falling apart. I'm really tired. And then they like from that they go into like a 3 minute song about how they want to be rich and how they want to have money, and that shows them like in imagined sequences on like a yacht. And it's just
Yeah.
like it adds it's a detour. Like that's what I was saying.
It
Like it
is a
feels
detour,
like
yeah.
it's just stringing together these songs, and they just
hmm
took like the first thing they could get their hands on, which I assume was the rights to the play slash book. I'm interested to like see what the book was because I can't imagine there was very much. It's probably closer to a short story than a book.
Yeah, I feel like without the music, you can't. This is not that long, unless there was like something really gruesome or something that happened, and like the whole thing is like just this is like the PG version of what happened. But yeah, I honestly kind of want to know like what happened in the book or at least the play. Um, but yeah, no, the soundtrack is really good though. It's just honestly, it's one of the most catchy like things I've ever heard in my entire life. You know what I mean? Like you can't hear it and not get at least one song stuck in your head.
Yeah,
Um,
that is true.
which yeah, yeah, it's like impossible. So yeah, the soundtrack I do enjoy a lot.
But like again, you can't even talk about the soundtrack as a soundtrack because it's not like
Yeah,
original. Like these are just pre-existing songs, which it's like it's so weird to me. Like everything about
yeah,
this is like you have to have like five disclaimers for everything you talk
yeah,
about.
yeah. But yeah, no, that part is honestly, it's kind of impressive how they managed to like create this story, this narrative or whatever from like, I mean, it was an existing idea, but the fact that they were just like, I mean, also credit to ABBA, all these songs are like very specific. You know what I mean? Like I like if you think about it, you're like, well, Our Last Summer, like that's very specific, you know what I mean? And I think that also kind of helped in the story process because of the specificity, they were able to like string it together, like you said, which I thought was very interesting as well.
I don't know. I feel like the specificity kind of comes from like I feel like you could take any album and like if you string it together right, you could make like a story like any story you want out of it.
Well,
Like
yeah, yeah.
I think like I kind of disagree with that like it like had to be those songs. I think those were probably just like the best songs that they could like
No,
find
no,
to
that's not
fit.
what I was saying. I was saying that the way they wrote the songs, like forgetting the movie entirely, the songs were just like very like you wouldn't that wouldn't be something you'd like be like it's not a generic song is what I'm saying. Like it's like you can't make anything out of it. Like it sort of like because of like the nature of the songs, it sort of like lent itself to giving it a story because it wasn't a generic song. That's what I was saying.
Okay, yeah. I get
Yeah.
that. I mean, it's just like the songs themselves are like well, I mean, they're just good songs on their own, I
Oh yeah,
guess.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's strange. I just keep
Yeah, that's
I just
fair.
keep saying that. But yeah.
I mean, it to be fair, it is kind of strange. The whole movie is like it shouldn't exist, but like everyone's glad that it does, or most people are anyway. But yeah,
I mean, you see something as unique as this. Like, I mean, you can't your perspective on cinema is slightly altered every time you see something like this.
that is true. That is true. But yeah, I kind of wanted to talk about the lighting though, because we were talking about this the other day, um, and I wanted to bring it up because you and I had varying observations about it. But honestly, I liked the lighting, even though upon researching, we found out most of it was um like not natural light. I did in fact like it because I thought it like gave the whole thing like a golden hour look like all the time, you know, which is just very visually pleasing. So even though it was kind of like faked, I thought it was an interesting decision to go that route. But it also, to me anyway, it just sort of like made the whole thing even more like homely or like sort of like nostalgic even though obviously this never like happened in your life, it just has that feeling of inducing nostalgia, you know what I mean? um but
Well, it's just
yeah,
so like genuine that it kind of
yeah,
feels that way.
yeah, it's also like saturated too, like all the colors are really bright, like the blue of the ocean, which I think is probably computer generated, but either way it's very saturated, everything is like very like in your face color wise, and I always really liked that part of it because it just made it even more like visually appealing and like, you know, but yeah.
I think a lot of it was filmed on location because they went to Greece for most of it. So I think like the ocean and stuff is probably like I mean obviously you could see like when it was like a matte painting and when it was like
Hmm.
clearly a set. But
Yeah.
yeah, I guess I'll sort of say my stuff about the lighting. Just like when we were watching it, I think I was like pointing it out a lot towards the beginning. But that was just because I like didn't understand what I was in for. But now,
Yeah.
like it is pretty fitting how it's like almost like dreamlike lighting,
Yeah.
where it's like so noticeable, but also so like soft. It's a really weird contrast. That's what I was saying. Like it looked like they were green screened in, like they could have been placed like in every scene, but that was just because of the lighting. And it was just like even when they were like just in like a bedroom, it looked like they were like it looked like they were keyed out, and it
Yeah.
was very because like it's kind of like that lighting could be used to like cover like keying like tracks and stuff, but it all sort of fed into that like feeling of this should not exist. What am I watching? Like mentality, and it really just it all worked. Like it's the type of thing that I feel like if even one thing was different, the whole thing would just fall apart. But it's
Oh,
just like
100%, yeah.
yeah, it I feel like there's like 100 things exactly like this like made every single year, but it's just like this is just the perfect like storm of chaos that just
Yeah.
so happened to
Yeah.
like right people, right place, right time, right music, and it just worked.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
ended up grossing like what was it, 600 million?
I think it was for something. Um, but yeah. Either way, it was a lot.
It was like
But
I
yeah.
think it was number 3 of 2008 because it was behind like The Dark Knight and one other thing.
Oh my God, it made 615.7 million in
Yeah,
the US.
just in the
Uh,
US.
oh no, not in the US. Sorry, total. I read that wrong.
Okay, yeah,
It made 144.1 million in the US and 471.6 in other territories worldwide for a total of 615. Um, which
yeah.
is insane.
I mean, it's cinema is the universal language, I guess. Mamma Mia is the
Yeah.
universal language. Well, I feel like there's just like no cultural barriers to get over. It's just a bunch of people
Yeah.
running around and singing.
Especially since the fact that like everybody's from wildly different places. Like it takes place in Greece. Stellan Skarsgård is Swedish, Colin Firth is British, Meryl Streep and Amanda Seyfried both are American. Dominic Cooper I think is British. Like they're all from like different places. So it's like a little bit of a bunch of different countries mixed together, you know what I mean? So it has that appeal as well. Yeah.
It says it was the third highest grossing film of 2008 internationally. So I think it's just like behind The Dark Knight. I can't even picture what else that would be like
Yeah, I honestly don't know.
even up against, like 600 million. it, oh, the Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. That
Yeah,
was
that makes
700.
sense.
Like that was almost 800 million. The Dark Knight was just under a billion. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense, but yeah, it's not what. But compared to The Dark Knight and Indiana Jones, this is kind of stands out a bit. I mean, just looking at the cover poster right now on the Wikipedia article, it's just like it. This looks like bottom of the barrel Adam Sandler like garbage, you know. But it's just
Yeah.
and it's like the feel good cinema event of the summer, and it
hmm
lives up to it.
Yeah, definitely. Although before we switch over to Fight Club, I think the important question is, which I asked you the other day, is which dad were you rooting for, Ben? Which one did you want to be Sophie's dad?
Well, I wasn't rooting for any one of them. I was just rooting against the British guy.
Yeah, which I found horribly offensive because Harry is my favorite character.
Okay, well, I
Um,
find the British race to be offensive, so
that's fair. That's a valid point.
yeah, no spoilers or anything, because I guess some of you haven't seen it. I guess probably very few have not seen this. I was probably one of few people. Like, what's the thing? Oh, Hamilton. Like, I'm like the only person I know who hasn't seen
I have
Hamilton.
not seen
Well, there
Hamilton
we
yet.
go. We're the only two. Yeah. Um.
You want to cut here and we'll talk about Fight Club now?
No, we can sort of wrap this up. Are we gonna give like a
Okay.
rating or a recommendation?
Oh yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we
Okay.
can do that.
You go
All
first.
right. So overall, I mean, I kind of biased on this one, but because it is one of my top 10. But I mean, honestly, I just love this movie. I from a technical standpoint, it's not the best, but I give it like honestly like 8 out of 10. Like it's such a good like wholesome movie and like it's just so like again, rewatchability plays a huge factor in how I rate movies because I feel like a movie is only so good or is only as good as the amount of times you can watch it again. You know what I mean? And like pick up on stuff or just even enjoy it for what it is. So I think 8 out of 10 is my solid rating for this movie.
Okay. And so you would recommend it.
I yes, I would 100%. If you are have not seen it yet, definitely go watch it.
Yes, it's available on nothing.
Where did we?
We
Yeah, actually, it's really not available many
Yes.
places.
So if you want to watch it, then too bad. Just listen to the music.
No, you can. Well, yeah, you could do that, but you can also like rent it on like any Fandango or like Google Play thing.
Do not spend money on this movie.
Okay, well, you know what I mean. If you really want to go watch it, it's a good watch. Rental probably less than $5 if you want to spend money on it. But yeah, no, I
Yeah.
definitely would recommend it.
Because there's absolutely no other way to possibly watch movies without spending money.
Yes, of course.
There is absolutely no alternative.
No option. You must spend money to watch movies.
Yes. So I guess I'll
Yes.
go. Um, I recommend this. That's it. Um, I recommend this to people who are interested in, I mean, even just from like a filmmaking perspective. If you just like,
Mm-hmm.
it's just so fascinating to me. So if you've been putting this off, just like thinking it's just like another musical type thing, it is, but it's unique in the like behind the scenes
Yeah.
stuff. So I would recommend
Yeah,
it.
definitely.
I gave this a 6 out of 10, 3 out of 5, if you will. Um, I just like it has a charm to it. Like it has a unique like feeling or vibe or whatever. And I think that just like the filmmaking complements that very well. But outside of that, for me, I don't really think it has much. And the music is good.
The music is the most important part.
Yes. Well, for this, literally, yeah.
No, yeah, I wasn't joking.
Do you have any final thoughts on Mamma Mia, the 2008 jukebox musical comedy film?
If you do watch this movie and go on to watch the second one, I would not recommend that. No, it's a fine movie, but this one definitely, if you want to have a good time, watch this movie. Seriously, it's a great
Well,
movie.
yeah, I mean that goes like you can't recreate this like chaotic storm that
Yeah, you really
like
can't.
I mean obviously since it made so much money they had to, try to do it again, but
Yeah, of course. Although to be fair, they did give it 10 years. The second one came out a decade after the first.
I guess that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mamma Mia, what a great
Yes.
podcast. That's what the viewer just said.
Yeah.
That's what the viewers are thinking right now. Ev-
See, but now we get into the fun stuff. Fight Club.
yes, only 50 minutes in.
Yes. Is it really 50 minutes? Oh my
Well, think about
God.
how many outtakes we had. So,
Definitely. Yeah, that's fair. All right. So how do you want to do? You want to introduce Fight Club, or do you want to just sort of like jump into it?
we'll just sort of talk, and it'll go naturally. You'll see. You'll see. Just
All right.
just follow my lead.
Okay. What lead? You're not giving me any lead.
Mamma Mia, what a good movie. Well, let's talk about another movie now. The movie's called Fight Club.
Yeah, it's like a small indie film. Not many of you probably have heard of it.
Well, yeah, because
But
the
yeah,
first rule of
Fight Club.
yeah, you guys, if you guys heard that, you guys know that line is from the movie.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like it's the thing that people say.
Yes.
So yeah, we're gonna talk about
We're gonna break the first rule.
yes, we're gonna talk about the 1999 David Fincher film. It is a film, Fight
It
Club.
is a film.
Based
Yeah.
off a novel, which neither of us have read.
I actually I was on the commentary I was listening to for this movie. Fincher said that he read this book in one night. And it was sent to him. I forget who sent it to him, but it was sent to him by like someone in the industry, and they're like, "You have to read this book." And he read it in one night and was like, "Okay, we gotta write this script now," which I think is kind of cool that somebody could like a book and finish it. Like it's 250 pages, so it's a pretty lengthy book to finish in one night, which I thought was impressive.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah. I guess
yeah,
we should point out you listened to the Fincher commentary track.
not the. I listened to a Fincher commentary track. There's multiple. But this one was just him. There's ones with the main three, Ed Norton, Brad Pitt, and Helena Bonham Carter. But this one was just with Fincher. So, but yeah.
So yeah, so you know probably a bit more about the behind the scenes stuff than I do
Mm-hmm.
for this.
Slightly.
Yeah.
Yes,
So I
slightly.
guess I should sort of talk about my own sort of experience or knowledge of the film, since you definitely have more to say than I do. Um
Okay.
I had seen this film a long time ago. Like I don't know, but anyway, I watched it. It had to be like at least 3, maybe even 4 years ago, and it was like right when I was really getting into film, and so it was like, oh, Fight Club, this is a good movie. I need to watch this, and so I watched it, and then like over the years, it got like bogged down in my mind with like I don't want to say like 7 other movies, and like I got it completely confused with a bunch of other stuff. Like there's the part when they're breaking into like the place to get the stuff to make the soap, like the lard or whatever, and
Yeah.
like that like beat for beat thing. I thought that was from Breaking Bad, but there 100% is like a similar like sequence in that. It was just like the small stuff like that that like was embedded into my
Yeah.
mind, but like I couldn't remember
Hmm.
where it was from. And so like watching
Yeah.
this just like what 2 or 3 days ago, like rewatching it was sort of like a very surreal experience. But
Hmm.
yeah, I guess you can sort of say your stuff about this. Should specify again, this is one of your favorite films, correct?
Yes, this is actually number three, right above Mamma Mia. Also, in case it hasn't been obvious already, spoilers ahead. So if you haven't seen it, don't listen anymore, because there's a big spoiler that we kind of can't not talk about. So go see it if you haven't seen it. Now that that's done, yes, this is in fact one of my favorite films. But yeah, I think just like from a base level, this whole movie is just so masterfully done. Like all the like going back and seeing all the little like, which I'm going to talk about later because I have a whole list. But seeing all the little like shots and like references and all this stuff is like the thought and time and stuff that went into this is insane, and it's just very well done. In my opinion anyway. Even though it's kind of one of those like stereotypical like film lovers favorite movies, it genuinely is one of my top five because it's just such a good movie. And I watched it for the first time, I think probably like 2.5 years ago, so fairly recently. But yeah, it's a great movie.
Yeah, this was not my first Fincher film. I had seen Seven, I think,
Yeah, I
before.
think same for me. Yeah.
I watched that probably when I was too young, but anyway. But now I have seen all but Panic Room, Alien 3, and Benjamin Button from Fincher's
Oh, that's a good movie.
filmography. Yeah, I've seen all but those three. And so rewatching that like with the context or like a better context of his like career and like
Hmm.
the placement of this like in that like chronological like progression,
Yeah.
it's very interesting to me. And you've seen I've seen more Fincher films than you, but you are also familiar with like a lot of his other stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
it was also just like a cool thing for me just to like realize how many things I didn't get with that first watch, and so it's kind of like a, oh wow, I've actually like learned stuff over the last 4 years. Like, oh hey, I've kind of progressed past just like, oh this is awesome, this is like they're punching each other, it's so cool. Which we'll get into that sort of like how kind of misrepresented I think like people make this out to be as like a dude bro like movie. But yeah, I'm just gonna let you kind of take the lead with this one, since you've probably seen it more like other than just the most recent rewatch. You probably have seen it or know more about it than me. So I'm gonna let you kind of like take the lead, and then I have some stuff I want to talk about as well.
All right. All right, cool. Well, I guess I'll start. Like, I have a bunch of like one-off like factoids about the movie that I wrote down from the podcast, the commentary track. Which we can just I'll like sprinkle in depending on where they're necessary in the conversation.
Okay.
But I mainly want to talk about some of the cinematography because I thought this was really interesting, and Fincher really explained it in like the first couple minutes. But the initial sweep through the kitchen in Ed Norton or the narrator's house was, I thought it's always like a very like clean and like it's like a recognizable shot, right? Like the sweep through of everything showing it. And apparently this was used to show and Norton's the character, the narrator's thought process in the film, and it's used to show like how quickly he can process things because of like the speed and the direction and the nature of how the kitchen was set up, but also how manic it is and like how he's like all over the place, but it's like quick, you know what I mean? Which I thought was really interesting, and it's stuff like that that makes it even more like it shows just the thought level put into it. And I always like when they do stuff like that, you know, they like have like a deeper meaning to like some basic camera work or whatever. But I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
That they used it to like his kitchen specifically, you know.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, I think it like Fincher films always have a very distinct like style, even though like stories can be like drastically different. Like, I mean, you compare this to like The Social Network, obviously, like there's no comparison, but it's still like very distinct, like clean cinematography, like tight story usually. And so it's like this stands out like in his filmography, but it still is like it's distinctly a Fincher film. And I think that's like it really complements like what he has always been able to do, and just taking this like this is definitely his like most insane like script that he's worked with easily. But yeah, it's close. The closest comparison is The Game, where that's just like again like a guy just going completely like in terms of like level of insanity of like the events that happen in the film. It's just like The Game like is just a continual just like descent of everything just getting more and more like higher and higher octane, higher like levels of insanity, of just crazy things that happen. But in that, like the characters are always like grounded. They're always like, you know, like at the end of the day, it's just like, what are we doing? Everything's going crazy. But the characters always like, you know, relatable, normal people. With this, it's just like he just threw all of that out the window. Well, I mean, that's just the nature of the story. But it was just like it's very unique. Not even in his filmography, but just as like a film. Like yeah, I've never seen anything quite like this.
Yeah, that's also why I love like original movies, like as in like original concepts, and I think this is just like it's got the perfect level of like grittiness and also like you feel for this guy, you know what I mean? Like you kind of do in like some weird twisted way with everything that's going on. It's just like it has like all the perfect like check marks to make this like a great film, you know what I mean? And yeah, I just think it's really really well done.
Yeah, it's like a like what genre? I want to hear what like how you would put it. Like what genre
Genre?
would you put this as? Like label it.
That's a hard
Yeah.
question. I feel like it's probably like it's gotta be like it's definitely crime. Like it definitely is crime. There's no way it's not. Um, I don't know. I feel like it's just kind of like I don't know. Honestly, I really don't know. I feel like it's more like a it's like a dark comedy almost, but like not really funny if that makes sense. Like it's ironic. That's like it's a dark comedy, but instead of it being funny, it's ironic. I think that's the best description I can give of it.
Yeah, it's like the world's first like comedy crime thriller action satire, you know?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
it's just like it is definitely a comedy, I would say, like above pretty much everything. Well, comedy, I guess maybe satire would be the better word. Of just like
It's comedy in the sense that it's insane and like has some funny moments, but yeah, I think satire is more
it's an
accurate.
absurdist comedy. Like
Yes, yes,
the
yes.
comedy, it's not like they're, you know, cracking jokes. It's like it's just in the
Hmm.
presentation, everything is played straight, but it's just like they even have, I mean,
Yeah.
it has like even cutaway gags at times. Like
Yeah, it does.
um
I mean, like those parts like peeing in like the soup and stuff like that. Like that's definitely like it's funny. It's intended to be funny. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But like it's not because it's like gross.
like
You
I
know?
mean, it's on the same level as like the Deadpool movies, you know, like of just like
Yeah.
totally like rejecting the rules of filmmaking, or it rejects like traditional structure and like narrative like storytelling like techniques. It just like does its own thing, and it's so like entirely original and just like creative, like just stupidity basically. Like, I mean, Ed Norton like talking directly into the camera, that has got to be like the best casting choice like ever. He is like, I mean, I love Brad Pitt as well, but I feel like he is probably like one of the best parts of the movie, like just his
Yeah,
performance.
I mean, Fincher himself said that most of the funny bits come from like Ed Norton's narration of it. Like, it's just he's a phenomenal act. Like, I don't know how much you've seen him in, but like Primal Fear, American History X, like these are all really great films, and he's a terrific actor. Like really, really good. And I agree with you. Brad Pitt's great. Like he's awesome, but like Ed Norton, I don't think anybody probably could have done this as well as he did. So,
Yeah, I think I've only seen him in like this and some of like the Wes Anderson stuff, like Moonrise Kingdom. Because I haven't seen what else, like you said, American History X, Primal Fear, or what's the other thing that he was in?
Hulk,
No, oh yeah, I guess I have seen that, but that was bad.
that
um,
was bad. Yeah.
oh, he was in Birdman, which I have not seen.
Oh, right. I forgot about that. Yeah,
Yeah,
he was in Birdman. I like the last half of it. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, no, I haven't seen much of him, but I mean, he's very another kind of like distinct. I feel like he was also again like right people at the right time, you know, like
Hmm.
he's just so he plays it so like straight, but also so like genuine, you know, like it doesn't come off as
Yeah.
like he's trying to be comedic. It's just that he's just perfect for the role. Like there's nothing
Yeah.
else to really say.
Yeah. Fincher was talking about him like he was like this was two separate occasions, but one he said that like this is just funny, but he was like Ed Norton has like the most perfect eye bags I've ever seen. Like and he's like they're natural too, which I was like, okay, true, but okay. And then he also said that he was like, oh my god, what I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, he said that like he that like especially the scene where like he beats himself up in front of the boss,
Hmm.
right? Like right before he walks with all the stuff. He said that it's like the audiences were like laughing, the test audiences, because you don't like this little scrawny guy is like intimidating. You know what I mean? Like he's supposed to be intimidating
Yeah.
to the boss, and you're like that shouldn't happen, but it is, and it's he kept comparing it to one movie. I forget what he was comparing it to, but like it was just like he like Ed Norton is so unsuspecting as like this like big shot, like you know what I mean, like who he is in the movie, it doesn't fit, but it does, like because it doesn't fit like logically, it fits like visibly, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I think obviously the, co-star for the majority of the film, Brad Pitt, I mean, just
Yeah.
that like having that contrast between the two.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we're
Yeah.
getting into like spoilers and stuff, but just like
I mean, I already gave a spoiler warning, so you might as
go
well.
watch the movie. But
Yes.
yeah, just the reveal that he is Tyler, or there was
Yeah.
no Tyler or whatever.
There was no Tyler, yeah.
Well, he became
Well, it
Tyler.
wasn't really he became Tyler, yeah.
But just like I mean that's like probably the funniest part of the whole movie. Like after you watch it, you're like Ed Norton is Brad Pitt. You know,
Yeah.
just like that level of absurdity is just like,
Yeah.
and it just has such like a cold like satirical tone to the whole thing. Like he meets Brad Pitt and he's just like, oh, I'm selling soap, and it's just like so like bizarre and
Yeah.
like just that's why I'm interested in like the book, like how much was like.
Hmm. Well, actually, I actually can answer that question.
Sure, go ahead.
So the scene where they meet Brad Pitt, where we meet Brad Pitt rather, that the plane part was invented for the movie. I think they met in like a store or something in the book. It was like it wasn't like on a plane. It was somewhere like local, and it was a store or a restaurant, or like they met on the street or something like that. But the reason they made them meet on a plane is because they needed to give like Ed Norton like a viable, like he's traveling, he's bouncing around, and they needed to incorporate that because like he wouldn't, otherwise he doesn't leave his house except for these support groups. So how would he meet Brad Pitt,
Yeah.
or Tyler Durden, whatever? And so put him on the plane, and that's why they had that scene.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, so many of the best parts of like what makes it work so well are like entirely visual. So I feel like
Yeah, 100%.
even though like oh it is kind of based on a book, we don't want to like I mean obviously it's has to be a good book for it to have like worked at all. But I think Fincher definitely like elevated, you know, all of the material and like I feel like if someone else tried to do this especially in like 99 I feel like this
Hmm.
again like could have very easily like fallen apart, could have come off as just like too campy, too serious, too
Yeah.
like it finds its balance very well.
Yeah, it's just really, really well thought out. Which is like actually this is like jumping ahead a little bit, but to add on to that fact, when they filmed and edited this movie, Fincher was saying that the runtime did like barely change. Like it was like a matter of like 4 or 5 minutes that got shaved off, which is insane. Like that never like you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's like insane that the movie changed that little. Which I think goes to show how airtight they made everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think he said that he worked on the script with the writer. I think his name was Chuck something for like a year, and like it was very well thought out and very well planned. And I just like it just goes to show that like that much preparation produces something that not many people could have done. Like so, like what you were
Yeah,
saying.
I mean that's just
Um,
Fincher's like style though. I feel like like pretty much
yeah,
all of his scripts are pretty airtight by the end of it.
yeah, they are pretty
Like
airtight. Yeah.
especially because like a lot of what he does like is adapted usually from like
Mm-hmm.
either a
Yeah.
novel or I mean real life in the case of uh the Social Network. I don't know, was Zodiac based on a book or just the like actual
Well,
events?
I think Zodiac was just based on like actually no, it might have been based off of the Robert guy's like he wrote a memoir or something, I
uh
think. Hang on, I'll look it up right now, but continue.
but no, I was just saying like that's just part of his like entire like signature style essentially where he's not really a writer. Like like he has the creative input as like I've always viewed him as such like a director, you know, whereas he's like the person who like
Yeah.
he's such a like filmmaker even though he like isn't the
Mm-hmm.
writer director. He is such like a distinct like visual like storyteller basically. And like
Yeah.
he the entirety of like the dramatic weight of his like films comes from his own like direction.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, he's got a very like distinct way of like creating, you know what I mean? And I think that just like that's also like as a director, he's really great, like in general. But this movie in particular, he basically like all the stories he was telling about like what had to get like approved of and everything, like they went through a lot to get all this stuff in the movie. And I think that's also what makes it so unique is that they just completely went off the rails with everything, and the studio pretty much let them do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't think
So
this
it's
would
like
have
it's
this couldn't have gotten made today for sure.
no, definitely, definitely not. But yeah, it's just like it's insane the amount of like stuff they went through to get this movie exactly how it is. It's really awesome.
Yeah, I mean like it's I guess we kind of need to talk about the plot a bit because we kind of just like
Oh
ranted
yeah,
about the filmmaking, but just like
yeah.
um it's just so like chaotic yet like
Hmm.
perfect, you know? Like there's so many
Yeah,
visuals that like I said, like I thought that I was just like making them up in my mind, but no, these are from this like movie. Like this is real.
yeah,
And it's just like
yeah.
so many moments and then obviously with the like twist it's just like so like it doesn't make any sense that like this character who we've seen the two of them in the same like room like the
Hmm.
entire movie like it doesn't make any sense that he's like beating himself up in a parking lot, but that's like but it's presented in a way that like you don't even question it for a second, you know, like
Yeah.
the editing and like you were saying like the traveling sequences where he's just like
Mhm.
flying around and just like suffering from that like severe insomnia, it's just such it builds such like the perfect feeling of just like absurdity that like by the time you get to all
Yeah.
these points you're just like yeah it makes sense to me, like you just completely go along with it.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say to add on to the point with the two of them in the same place. Um, the only like this is actually really interesting, but Fincher had said the only part where it didn't really make sense is when they're in the car, like right before Brad Pitt crashes it,
Hmm.
um, because he's driving. But he said it could easily be written off as the narrator's imagination. But something particularly interesting that he said is that after they crash the car's flipped over, right?
Hmm.
And Brad Pitt, who was previously in the driver's seat because he was driving, actually gets out on the passenger's side
Wow.
and goes over to help Ed Norton out of the car on the driver's side, which you don't notice because the car's flipped upside down. But like, I read that and I remember like looking, I heard that him say that, and I remember looking back and I'm like, oh my god, I'm like that's like such a tiny detail, but like it's so like cool, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
airtight. I think that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, yeah, it's just like,
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying. Like, I can't imagine anyone else trying to do this, or like
hmm
even him trying to do this, something like this again. Like, it's such a unique, like, not just a unique film, but just like a unique, like, type of film. Like, I think nothing is ever really like caught up because it's like it's almost like not like scary, but it's like genuinely tense at times. But it's like also one of the funniest movies ever made, but it's also like, exciting, and it's also like psychologically like compelling. Like it's such a like unique blend of like that's why I mentioned like the genres because I was thinking about just like I don't think anything else has ever like been able to do what this does. Like I don't think Fincher like I don't think he's really tried either, but I think that like nothing could ever really top this in terms of like what it does, you know?
yeah, 100%.
And so I don't know how much more you have like to say, but uh
I mean, I have like random one-off
yeah, you
facts.
can just you can list those off like at the end just so it's like just like a
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was gonna
list,
say.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I was going to start talking about the just sort of like deeper like the themat like the
yeah,
messages
the
of the
themes
film.
in it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just because I feel like I mean it's called Fight Club, right? It has Brad Pitt in it, right? And so like I just cuz I had always like heard of it as like kind of like I mentioned the Dude Bro movie where it's just like Tyler Durden is like this super cool guy who like is like the actualization of like this scrawny nerd's like all of his desires are like represented in this super cool. I mean, it's Brad Pitt, but
yeah,
yeah, it's like there's just a lot in there about this like sort of forced like perspective of like masculinity and like the sort of over the top like dude bro attitude, which is like the type of people who like wrongly like view this movie that way. Where it's just like it opens with like a bunch like at the testicular cancer or whatever. Like I think that especially like is very like thematically setting.
yeah. I get what you're saying about like the those themes, but I was also gonna say like consumerism too, and like material objects is also a very like heavy theme throughout the film. Specifically like every time Tyler's like you like your possessions do not make you or whatever it is like you know and like the emphasis on living life and just like enjoying life without having to like do stuff for the sake of having stuff for lack of a better term, which also is coincidentally why they used IKEA as a heavy, a prominent feature of the film because all of Ed Norton's character's furniture was from IKEA, um, which I think is honestly like pretty like talent. Starbucks again featured like all these like big brands are in the movie, um, but like it seems to be for like all the wrong reasons. You know what I mean? Like the furniture explodes. You know, Brad Pitt's character like denounces it, saying he doesn't need it. The Starbucks cup is like he just drinks the coffee and like nothing happens. He's still the same. You know what I mean? Like all this stuff. It's like there's such an emphasis on like getting back at the system, even to the point where he like put like the like inserts into the projection reels. You know what I mean? Like it's all getting back at like these big corporations and stuff, which is another like heavy part of it. I think.
Yeah, I mean it's
But
very
yeah,
clearly like a very like direct like angry like sentiment towards, I mean, capitalism, consumerism. I mean, it's very like it's so direct, but like it fits in the type of story that it is, and it's like very like thematically like potent. But I feel like it's just so easy. That's why it's like really funny to me that like people like completely miss everything about it and just like, oh, it's funny because they punch each other. Where it's just like he essentially like forms a small group of like guerrilla militias like to like overthrow like capitalism in their like area. It's just, I don't know, it's a very strange phenomenon.
It's even worse though when like you realize that they're honestly not even really like that good at fighting. Like, you know what I mean? Like the narrator lost like almost every fight he fought in except for like the one against Jared Leto's character. And Brad Pitt only beats um the guys up in the group. Like pretty much loses the fight to Lou. He doesn't really in the end because they get to keep the spot, but like the physical fighting of it he lost. You know what I mean? Like none of these guys are like really good at fighting. They just kind of like are mad and letting that out. You know what I
Well,
mean?
yeah, it's just like feeling like trapped by what there are in like their daily
Hmm.
lives and their sort of spot in the like
Yeah.
system, which eventually leads to that like building of like just tearing it all down with the ending.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, speaking of the ending, another interesting factoid. Um, apparently the CGI artist for that they hired spent an entire year on that one shot of the buildings crumbling.
Wow.
Um, yeah, which it's like literally like 10 seconds of footage and spent the whole year on it, which I mean for 99, not bad, but like thought that was just interesting because it is such like a like symbolically it's very like important, you know, because like in the end, yeah, the plan like worked. You know what I mean? Like all the buildings came crumbling down. It just like like and also the shot of them like holding hands in front of the window. It's like very
It's
cinematic,
a happy
and it
ending.
just sort of like it is. It technically is a happy ending, yes. Besides the fact that Ed Norton is dying from just shooting himself in the head, um, but or not dying, but in pain. But yeah, it's a very like cinematically happy ending in a weird, twisted way, which is definitely interesting. But
Yeah.
no, I just it's the whole movie is like the themes and symbols are so like in your face that you don't even notice them at times.
Yeah.
Like it's that well done with like its like themes and stuff because they're not hidden at all, but at a surface value you don't notice them because you're so absorbed in like these guys' lives and everything that it just sort of like kind of washes over you, but you absorb it like subconsciously, you know?
Well, yeah, it's so over the top that you like can't even process it all. Like just
Yeah,
the
exactly.
like it's not just like, oh, they're, anti-consumerism, anti-capitalism. It's like, oh, we are going to literally blow up a bunch of buildings that make credit cards, whereas like you're so focused on like the like specific things, and like, but the specific things are literally like the big picture. And so it's like a weird thing where it's like, since they're like intertwined, like your brain can't even process them as like separate things. It like I said, it's
Yeah,
very
exactly.
unique in terms of the storytelling and messages.
100%. Yeah, 100%. It's like every little thing was thought out in like the most extreme way possible, and like even the bigger stuff was like very tightly like crafted, but they made it like so it's just so well done. Like the way they like ingrained these like thoughts and things into your mind is like so telling of how masterful this whole thing was, and it's just so good.
Yeah. I mean, I think also like you mentioned the CGI just for the buildings at the end. There's also these
Hmm.
like CGI incorporated like shots like
Yes.
throughout the film. I don't
Yes.
know if you have anything like from the Fincher or like behind the scenes stuff. I just wanted to say like it also like this is the type of thing like right time period where it's like 99, like the CGI wasn't like overbearing, but it was just like a weird, like it fit in with the story because of how like it not like unrealistic, but also it didn't look bad. It was an interesting like kind
Yeah,
of blend
it was
of
kind of like a video game.
yeah, like that level of like flowing like camera movements that wouldn't be possible like in real life.
Yeah, I there wasn't anything in the commentary about that, but I did want to talk about it because I love all of those shots so much. Like there are some like very particular shots in this film that I love, but those like sweeping CG shots, especially like when they ignite the stove and it goes into the wires, it's so cool. Like it's honestly, it doesn't even look that bad. Like you're right, for the 90s, it's pretty good effects.
Yeah.
And also just like the fact that it's got like this like grunge like rock essentially blasting over it is like really, and then just cuts out like as Norton starts talking again. It's so good. Like it's so well done. I love all of those shots.
Yeah. Well, I
A
think
lot. Like they're really cool.
talking about airtight, I think the editing as well, just like
Oh yeah.
everything is like perfectly like, I mean, well, especially for like comedic timing because that is a factor in this. Like, it's all just so like perfectly like cut together.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's like you're right. It is really, really well done. The whole editing. And like even like all like the little like insert shots, like I don't think we talked about this yet, but they call them like subliminal brads of like before we meet Tyler Durden appears in like one frame,
Hmm.
in like I think 5 instances they said in the
I
commentary.
was trying to point that
Yeah.
out while we were watching it. I don't think I like worded it very
Oh,
well.
that's what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, because I that's what I was talking about, but then you said no, and I was like, oh, I have no clue what you're talking about then.
Well, no, it's just like
Okay, yeah.
only like single frames though.
No, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I was talking about because I said something like that, and you said no, it's this, and I was like, oh, okay. So I thought you were talking about something else, but
Oh, I was
yeah,
confused.
no, I
We watched this
okay.
over Amazon Watch Party just through text, so we weren't like talking. So I'm not that much of an idiot.
No,
just
you're
so the
not.
viewers are aware.
No, the viewers should know the truth, Ben. Anyway, moving on. No, but yeah, no, I genuinely like the way they edited it was just so good, and like all like the narration too, the way they edited the narration together, like over certain like parts, especially the office scenes, just made it like it was just so solid. Like there's I can't like fault the editing for anything. Like it really made the movie really
Yeah.
good, really well.
It got the I think wasn't it nominated for an Oscar for effects, right?
Uh, apparently didn't get nominated for any Oscars.
Uh
Yeah, it didn't. That's
no,
weird.
I just thought I
Yeah.
remember hearing about that. I guess not.
But yeah, no. Honestly though, like the whole like I have like a bunch of like small
But
stuff
yeah, you can go
like
ahead
that's like
and
just shows. Yeah, because these are actually really interesting. Um, let me find. Okay, so for example, the commentary Fincher was talking about the scars from the acid burns. And I don't remember if he said like where the context was, but Brad Pitt was basically like kissing pieces of paper, right? And I don't remember if they said it was from a deleted scene or he was just doing it on set for some reason or whatever, but they used that imprint to design the scar that was on the hands of like the people who like the acid or the chemicals or whatever.
mm,
Uh which is like those tiny things. Like why would you ever do that? Because it's Fight Club. Why else? You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like it's like tiny stuff like that. Um Also the fact that like this one actually is from Helena Bonham Carter. Fincher said that she asked the makeup artists to like apply her makeup with their non-dominant hands because she felt like Marla Singer would not be good at makeup and so like it would come out all smudged and everything and like it's just like the commitment to like the tiny details and like to these like characters lives is like insane.
Yeah.
um
That's
but
what makes a good
yeah,
movie.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But oh, also one important thing. The scene where they're in the bathroom and they're talking about like who would you fight like the first time.
Hmm.
That scene was apparently originally shot outside under the stars. Um and it didn't like turn out well or something and they chose to do it in the bathroom because the set was about to be torn down and they just thought it was like such like I think they said Brad Pitt was either in agreement with this or thought of it or whatever, but he was like Tyler Durden would be the guy who wouldn't care about being naked in front of his friends, and that just shows like his confidence or something like that. And like it turned out to be like such like a memorable scene, you know?
Mm.
And it's like all of the like throughout the entire everything I've been reading about this movie, all members of the cast were heavily involved in the actual filmmaking process, which I think is really cool. And it's something you don't see as much anymore nowadays.
Well, yeah, I think especially Brad Pitt. I feel like
Yeah.
he's kind of like roped in there with like the Leo DiCaprio like movie star status, but really, I mean, he has like his own production company, and he like I feel like he especially is like a very create like some working on something like The Tree of Life, which is like this art house film. Like not only did he like help star in it, like he literally like helped produce it like from start to finish. Like he and stuff like what was the other thing? 12 Years a Slave, just like smaller, not smaller stuff, but stuff that like you wouldn't like expect Brad Pitt to be like a part of. I feel like he doesn't get enough like credit. This is sort of deviating from Fight Club, but just like he like his role in the film industry like definitely extends beyond the just like, oh, I'm handsome actor man. I'm gonna be in a I'm a big star. You know, like I feel like he especially like
Mhm.
extends beyond that.
To add on to that, it's kind of this a similar thing with Ed Norton. Like not for Fight Club. Like obviously he had creative input, and he even actually helped cast Meatloaf as Bob. But like he like wrote like like almost the entirety of the script, I think, or something. Like he was heavily involved, like either with directing. I'm pretty sure he was writing the script though for American History X.
Mm.
Like he pretty much like I think it was the script. I think he wrote like most of it, if not the whole thing, because there was like creative issues or something. Like there was a problem, and he basically like took on a big role in it. I don't remember specifically which part, but like he didn't really get credit for it at all. Like is the point that I was trying to say. Like you know what I mean? Like they're both very creative, like outside of just the acting, which is
Yeah.
very interesting, and I think also really helped make this such a good movie.
Yeah, no, I didn't know that about like I said, I don't really know much about Ed Norton or American History X or anything, but yeah,
No, I'm not trying to like rub that in, but yeah,
well, no.
I was just bringing
Yeah.
it
But yeah, it's yeah, very similar to Mamma Mia.
up. Yes, it is.
I mean, they want to tear down capitalism. They want to, you know, uh that's it.
Yeah, pretty much. That's it.
I mean, that's the main I mean, they're both absurdist comedies. They're both
That's fair, yeah.
yeah, that is the only comparison. But yeah, Fight
Yeah,
Club pretty good. Not gonna lie.
it is pretty good. Yeah. If you have not seen it yet, which I guess is a little late now because
Yeah,
you kind of know what happens, but definitely go watch
not
it.
really. I mean, we
Uh,
we spoiled the
well,
big twist, but like
we pretty much did. Yeah,
not
that's
the actual
true.
plot.
Go watch it again.
Watch it
Go watch it
again.
again. You've
Yes,
probably seen it. Go watch it again.
right now.
But yeah,
Pause the video.
yes.
Actually, no. Finish the video.
Finish the video first, and then you can go watch it again.
Yes,
Yes.
but
So what's your rating for this one, Ben?
I guess if we're doing that, I gave it. I had it at a like 8, and then I bumped it down
Mm-hmm.
to a 7 over the years, just because like in my memory it was just like being turned into what like I thought it was like, oh, dude bro movie, and so I like bumped it
Yeah.
down. And then on this rewatch I gave it a 9 out of 10 because
Yeah.
uh kind of good. NGL.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
What about you, Rora? What would you rate it?
Well, I gave it a complete 10 out of 10 because which is not very few movies make that cut for me, but I genuinely love this movie and every single part of it, and I think it's so well done, so it's a definite 10 out of 10 for me. I really do love it.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I can't really like say there are any like problems with it, but I
Yeah.
still feel like it's not a 10 for me just because of how like
Yeah, that's fair.
absurd like it doesn't take itself seriously enough for me to really like view it as like a perfect film, but I feel like for what it is perfect in itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of my mentality, though I don't necessarily care about it being as serious as you say, which
Mhm.
is fine, fair, different taste in movies, but I agree with you in the fact that there's like technically nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Uh, Also, soundtrack is good. I know we're probably trying to wrap this up, but
Yes.
soundtrack very good.
Yes.
Better than Mamma Mia. Actually, identical to Mamma Mia.
It's about the same, yes.
I want to see an edit where it's just like Fight Club music in Mamma Mia and the Mamma Mia soundtrack in Fight Club.
They just blast Dancing Queen over all the fight scenes.
Yes. Like as the building explodes, it's just the like Mamma Mia main theme or whatever.
Yes, it's just the xylophone part cues in the beginning.
Yeah. Um yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about Fight Club. I mean I did have stuff to say, but I kinda like blanked out for like a solid 10 minutes there, but
Well, do
uh
you remember it? Because we can just kind of put it back in if
no,
you
I don't
want.
know what you're talking about because it got cut out.
Oh, right. Editing, the magic
But
of editing.
yeah, do you have any final thoughts about Fight Club?
I mean, not really. It's just a great movie.
It is
Like,
pretty
it's
good.
really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um
But yeah.
yeah. I guess we can sort of start concluding this pilot then. Uh we'll sort of talk about like our structure and I mean, I think this went it went mildly smooth. I think I mean it's just the type of thing we'll get better as we go
hmm
along. I think our discussion
I think from a, yeah, sorry, finish.
like I was gonna say we didn't really talk over each other, um, but yeah, I mean, for in terms of like of our very first podcast, considering I didn't really do any preparation for this, I think
hmm
we did a pretty okay job. I think it's only uphill from here or downhill or what
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Uphill.
Yes.
No, wait. No, I was gonna say, like, I think I mean, yeah, we had issues, like a lot of breaks and stuff, and we messed up. But I think from a content point, I think we did pretty good. Like, I think we did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
It went better than I expected it to. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
Um, well, I mean, that was kind of the point of this. We just picked two like funny
Yeah.
movies and just sort of rant about them.
hmm
But I think in the future,
Yeah.
A, I'm gonna be more prepared. B, it'll like go smoother just as we, sort of figure out how to
Yeah.
talk about things. But also, I
Yeah.
think we're gonna have like a better structure where I'm gonna like actually know like, okay, now we're gonna say this now, or not like now we're gonna say that.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna do this segment. Now we're gonna talk about the movie, other movie, and here's
hmm
what we're gonna do. So I guess I can sort of
Yeah.
talk about what I'm thinking for that. I'm thinking we sort of open with just like a quick introduction, uh, and sort of like maybe talk like about what we've been up to in day-to-day life, stuff like that, any updates or
hmm
whatever to the channel or our individual channels,
Yes.
or social media or whatever. We just
hmm
sort of talk about that, 10 to 15 minutes max. Then we start talking about the movies. I mean, from there, that'll vary episode to episode. Then at the end,
Yeah.
it depends on who is watching this, if anyone. But I would
hmm
like to have like
Yeah.
a Q&A session at the end where
hmm
we sort of answer your comments, or questions from the comments. We have a Twitter and Instagram account,
Yes.
specifically set up for this podcast. I mean, plus like we have our individual social medias, which all of which you can find in the link in the description. But
Yes.
but yeah, please. If you have any questions, I don't know who's watching this, but like if anyone's still here, probably not many, but feel free to leave questions or whatever. I mean, film oriented or not.
Or
Or
even just suggestions of what to watch
yeah, that's what
next, or review
I was
next,
gonna
rather.
say. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, we're gonna choose what we watch, but like viewer
Yeah.
suggestions definitely, especially like early on when we don't really have like a definitive like schedule. So like if you guys
Yeah.
have recommendations or things that like or pairings of films that we should do together, because I think the two film system would work pretty well for a 90-minute ish podcast.
Yeah.
And then like sometimes I'm sure we'll do like three, like if we do like a trilogy or whatever, we can talk about three things. But
Yeah.
yeah, don't really have anything other planned than that. I want to do like Q&A, maybe have some like funny bits at the end. I think for this we've probably already gone on too long, so I don't know if we have time for like
Yeah,
we were gonna do like icebreakers or something stupid, but yeah, I don't really have time.
we can do one
Okay,
question.
sure.
We can pick one question.
Go.
Okay, if you could be in the Guinness Book of World Records, what record-breaking feat would you attempt?
Like what's realistic for like something that I can do or like just anything.
No, it says which would you attempt, so anyone you wanted to do.
Okay, I don't know. Most movies watched in a day. Most movies watched in 90 minutes. I can get one.
That's yeah.
Least number of subscribers gained in last 90 days. Hopefully this channel will be more active than my actual one.
Linked in the
Linked
description.
in the description, yes. But speaking of that, I do have a letterboxd lottery probably out by the time this is up. And if not, then uh-oh, because I need to go edit. But yeah, go watch that if it's out. Do you have anything you want to plug?
No.
No. Okay, so that was the pilot.